Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
Hi, I'm Jessica Faust.
We are literary agents who took our popular blog to YouTube to talk all things publishing. But today we are talking all things that we read in February.
Not all things.
Not all things, no. Yes.
But for anybody who isn't aware, you can follow me on Goodreads because while I don't necessarily post a review, I do record all the books I've read. It's how I track. So you can see what I've been reading, which also helps inform my MSWL.
So what did you read this month? I have read 2 books.
I picked 2 books because you said, oh, we're going to discuss Atomic
Oh, snap. Should we start there?
Well, let me start quick because I have a third book.
Okay.
But I don't want to talk much about it. So I read Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I bought this for myself for Christmas. And you had read it in December, and we discussed it in what video? The Holiday Reads video in December?
Yes, we did a holiday gift buying video, and I think that's a book everybody should be gifting.
Yeah, and that was December 2020. So I don't want to go into this because we already discussed it, but I really do want to say I think this should be required reading for
high schools,
classrooms,
colleges,
and people and living. This book was unbelievably eye-opening, and not just from a sociological level, but from a historical level. Like, there were historical facts in here about this country and this world that blew my mind. And I walked around sharing some with people, and then I would say, well, now you're not going to stop thinking about that either, will you? People just look at me stunned and go, no.
One of the things I love most about that book is everything was put into, like, she said every claim, and then everything was done in layman's terms. Like, there was nothing that you couldn't understand. Like, there was the house analogy, and then the virus in Russia analogy, and like all of the analogies that made it so simple for everyone to understand.
Yeah, I think it sounds and looks like a very academic book, and it is not. And her writing is fantastic. I mean, I worship her now. So,
yeah, you have to read her other book, The Warmth of Other Suns.
Oh goodness, you just keep.
That is a brick of a book, though. That's like that thick. But it was
Maybe
good.
I'll do it on audio.
Oh, you should. Yeah, I wonder how it is on audio.
So, gift. I actually gave this to my niece for Christmas, and she, when she finished it, was texted me to tell me she was blown away. So everybody loves this.
Yes.
Okay. Now.
All right. Here we go. I read, the light is making this one all funky. I read Atomic Habits
by James Clear.
Yep.
Yeah, this has become a BookEnds. I mean, everybody's reading this.
We book clubbed it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I should let you start because I already rambled.
You know, this was the kind of book that you sit down to read and everything seems super obvious, but it, like, the way James Clear sort of made it clear. Yeah. But the way, the way everything was laid out, it really broke down like what it is to make a habit, what a habit is, and how you can recognize good and bad habits and build them. It was really helpful in terms of everything, like work, lifestyle, anything. And I thought that it's the kind of book that even though you might feel you know everything, it's worth reading just to have it presented to you in this clear, concise way, an actionable way.
Clear. Every time you say clear. Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of habit books, a lot. And by far, Atomic Habits is the best one. In fact, this is one that I won't give up. I think I'm going to read through a second time, but it's definitely one, read with a pencil in hand, take notes, Post-its. He really does break them down in a really manageable way. And he doesn't just talk about building habits, but he also talks about breaking bad habits. So it helps with both ends of it. My favorite takeaway was something that I actually have done sort of unintentionally, which is the building on of habits. So I used to get up in the morning and write my gratitude journal. And then I decided, oh, that would be a good time to meditate. So now I meditate and then write my gratitude journal. And after doing that for some time, I was like, it would be good to do a little yoga in this. So right before my meditation, I do some stretching. But all of this has been consistent for me for a couple of years because I didn't go into it and say, I need to do this and I need to spend a half an hour doing this. And this is how it's like I started one small habit for about 5 minutes and then it built and built and built. And then I could add something else and add something else. And so my morning routine is very structured, like embarrassingly structured. But it's because over time, and this includes my dog walk with Olive, over time, it was just add another habit and add another habit, and it just built upon each other. And now it's just how I spend my morning.
Well, there was another point he made too about goals and setting goals, and how setting goals isn't necessarily the best way to gain improvement. You have to do it, like you said, like build the habits, the 1 degree every day warmer until the ice melts, something like that analogy. Just because you can set a goal, but are you doing what you need to do to reach that goal? Which is something that we at Bookends talk about all the time. But it made me go back and look at my goals and how I can further break down to make those habits every day to make me a better agent in general.
Yeah. So, for example, if your goal is to, sell your book, let's just go really big. Your goal is to sell the book you've written. Well, then that's great. That's a great goal. But what do you need to do to make that happen? Which is, presumably you need to write the book. Which means that break that down further. How do you write the book? How many pages are you going to do? When are you going to write it? What's your plan for getting to that point so that you can get to the next point? It's one thing to set the goal of selling the book, but you also have to set the goals and the plans to make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just materialize the goals out of thin air.
Right. But really, I loved this book. Loved it.
I agree. Thanks for the recommendation. Do you want to go next?
I can go next.
Okay.
So, It's About Time by Arlen Hamilton. I think it just came out fairly recently. I was listening to a podcast in which the guest was asked, "What are you reading?" And she said, "It's about damn time" for the second time. And I didn't even look at what the book was. I was just like, oh, if you're reading it twice, I'm just going to go get it. I love her. Arlen Hamilton is she's an investor, and she started her own angel investing company. But she has this incredible story of overcoming odds, of growing up. I can't say she was homeless, maybe nearly homeless at the time, really growing up and struggling a lot as a child and even as an adult. But what's interesting is I didn't feel like that's what the book was about. It was a little bit about her journey, but it was really just this inspirational way that she looks at life and got done what she wants to get done, and how she formed her business for the sole purpose of supporting marginalized people and women, people who big investors often overlook because they're not white men, and has really built. But how you want to learn how to hustle, you read this book. I mean, this woman just lived fearlessly. And I mean, she didn't, but she did. Like, we'll talk about how she would get meetings with top people and how she would do whatever it took to get in the door. And, there's this one great story. She went to listen to a speaker, and all these people were sort of waiting in line to talk to the speaker. And she was like, that's not the way she was going to talk to the speaker. So it was at some hotel in like the conference room. And she also talks about being a Black woman in these spaces and how it's assumed that she's like the wait staff and all of this. So she found a woman who's the wait staff, a Black woman. And she said, "Oh, do you know what his plans are after the meeting. And she's like, oh, he has like a video thing up in here. And the woman basically let her in the service elevator so she could get up to that floor, and met him outside of that meeting, sat there and watched him do the video so that she could talk to him even more afterwards. And I'm like, damn, that is hustle. So, so I actually listened to this on audio and was so inspired. I bought the book because I want to read it so that I can really absorb it again, because I love it.
So more memoir or more like?
I think it's both. I think it's a little bit memoir. It's not really a self-help. It's not like Atomic Habits where you sort of walk away with a to-do list, but it definitely really does have that, you know, this is what you have to do feeling to it. So it's a little bit more than a memoir, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So love her.
Okay, the last book I read in February was Heaven My Home by Attica Locke. This picks up directly where her first installment in the series, Bluebird, left off. And it follows Darren Matthews. He is a Texas Ranger, and it follows him while he's sort of dealing with the mess that happened. I don't want to give away spoilers. Given with the mess that happened at the end of the first book, and also investigating the missing child of a imprisoned white supremacist.
Wow.
But if you've ever read anything by Attica Locke, it's so like richly written.
Mm-hmm.
The characters, the setting, it's sort of like, it's just a gut punch. Every book that I've read by her so far, well, this is only the second book I've read by her, but both books that I've read by her are a gut punch. I think she's like an incredible writer. And I just love the mystery. Like it just sets up this rich setting, and it's atmospheric, and it's dark and gritty. And it's just real people. There are real people in this book, and I think that's what I love the most about it. But if you have not read Bluebird, start there and then pick up Heaven My Home. I believe there will be a third one. Don't quote me on that. I hope there will be a third one.
Nice.
But incredible and huge MSWL for me. Anything in the vein of Attica Locke, I'm all down for.
Excellent.
But that's all I read this month.
Well, I read some more, but that's all I'm going to discuss this month.
I am not super productive in my reading, so 2 a month is just, that's my goal.
It's been busy.
It has.
And I'll be honest, I have been struggling to sit down and read. I've been struggling to find the focus. So a lot of what I've been doing is, most of what I've been doing has been audiobooks. So I think our next one primarily will be books I've done on audio again, although we'll see. And therefore it's a lot of nonfiction for me right now, probably more nonfiction than I've ever read in any given time. So
Wow. Well, that's exciting.
it is. I've been there's been some good things in there.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about next month.
Yeah, we'll talk about those next month. If you have any recommendations for us, put them in the comments. We always love talking about books. And we hope to see you back here next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and enjoy a book sometime this month.
Bye.